Well, when we look at these designs, it's obvious very quickly that they are not just simple circles, simple design, that they have a very specific construction, and that construction can be deciphered, can be read from many different angles. It can be read through its geometry. It can be read through the inherent mathematics that are encoded in the construction, and there is usually a reference to an ancient symbol. So we by going back to the ancient symbol, we can extract the meaning from the ancient symbol, and then the mathematics has its own meaning, and so has the geometry. But the interesting thing is that it tends to be the same. We find that I'm looking from ancient symbol, but the people who understand the mathematics find the same meaning in it, and the same meaning in the geometry, so it can be read from different angles, and from different levels too. So it's very interesting that these three link together, and that is very rare, because it's not purely an ancient symbol, it's never exactly, except for the Barbary Castle, except for sometimes you have one that is really truly like an ancient symbol, but mostly it refers to an ancient symbol, but it's not exactly the same. We had a Mayan elder who came last year, and she said the Mayan glyph, I'm sure you remember, opposite Silbury Hill, and we took her there. It arrived the same day as she did. And she said, it's our most sacred symbol, but it's not exactly like our ancient symbol. It is, but it's not exactly like it. It has other dimensions attached to it. And when people like Benoit Mandelbrot of fractal fame looks at these fractals, he says, these are mathematical fractals, but there's an added dimension to it. It has a spiritual dimension, like an ancient symbol. So that's new. That's new, because it brings in advanced knowledge with very ancient knowledge, and from different angles. And it makes a new whole, a new symbol, a new design.
What do you feel these patterns are doing to us as humans?
Any knowledge has the power to transform, whether it's knowledge through mathematics, and you know how a mathematician gets excited when they discover new laws of the universe and so on. So it has the power to transform the way we see things. And transformation is always at that level. It's always a transformation of the way we see things. When that changes, everything changes, because we express everything through our understanding of how things go, how things are. So a symbol has always been the way to transmit knowledge. Knowledge has always been transmitted through symbols, because you can put many, many layers of meaning in a symbol, which you can't when it's written in a book. So it's a visual thing, but it has many, many, many layers of meaning. Mathematics is the same, but mathematics doesn't have a spiritual dimension, whereas ancient symbol has a spiritual dimension. So the mathematicians who study this are, without realizing, they look at the mathematics and they enter a spiritual dimension. And the people who study it from an ancient knowledge, which is a spiritual teaching, and actually connect with a mathematical understanding and a geometry. So it opens everybody's perception, whichever angle you take it from. It's very transformative. Symbols are about understanding what kind of world we live in. And it explains, it transmits the understanding of how the universe works and the kind of laws we're under. And this is actually a spiritual teaching. Mathematics will go into it and try to explain it from the point of view of matter, of the effect of that on the physical. The ancient knowledge is talking about principles and concepts behind the physical, you see. So to reach that level of understanding, you have to go above the physical. You have to raise your mind above what you can see, touch, feel, taste, and so on. You have to raise above the physical. And in that sense, you're learning, you're you're growing in understanding. The ancient expression, growing in understanding, that's exactly that. You grow in understanding. Whereas if you bring everything down to, oh, it's not laid properly, oh, it's not quite straight, you bring everything down and you don't look at the symbol, you just look at the physical aspect. You bring it down to your own level of what should be right and what should fit your idea, you know? So that's what I was trying to explain in my lecture, that it's here to raise our consciousness, but the human mind has the tendency to try and drag everything down to its level. But this is a chance now. We have to really begin to see the big picture.
Where do you think this is going to take us, Francine?
Well, it's going to take us to a more universal way of understanding, universal knowledge. This is universal knowledge. Ancient symbols are for everybody, for all time. They're timeless, and they're not restricted. They're not fundamental, like fundamentalist teaching. You know, it's really learning about the principle, the concept, that which is behind the physical, because the physical is simply a denser reality. But it comes from there. It's a denser vibration. So if you understand these rules, these principles and these concepts, then we understand what kind of world we live in, you see. And if we do that, once we begin to understand what kind of world we live in, we begin to fit better in it, actually, because it gives us respect, you know. And so I see the crop circle as a teaching, because we all learn. You mentioned when I arrived that you like to come here because people can discuss all sorts of metaphysical ideas and so on. Once you enter this space, you enter a different reality, actually. And you begin to ask questions. Crop circle make us question. Why is it here? What kind of world do I live in? How can it be here? You know, all these are questions that come up when you enter a crop circle, and you begin to see to look at the bigger picture, rather than be concentrated just on a mundane Monday to Friday, make enough money to pay the bills and that at that level. You begin to want to understand, you know, what kind of world is this? You know, what is it that I live in, and what's my place in it? Who am I in all that? It opens these doors, you see.
Why just here concentrated in a small area in Wiltshire?
They tend to come near ancient sites, near where our ancestors all over the world considered sacred. And they considered these places sacred because they felt that there was a possibility of raising their consciousness in these areas. And that's why they build their temples there. And they build their temples in areas where the lines of energy of the earth meet or connect, or there's a nodal point, and there is actually a natural energy that stimulates this. And that's why they build the stone temples there, and then the cathedrals were built on top of that. You see, most cathedrals are built on ancient stone circles, using the same stones, because that space has that energy in it that as soon as you enter that space, you're different. You know, you enter a cathedral, your spirit is elevated immediately. It's the same with crop circles. You get the same feeling. You enter a space that is quite sacred, and it's sacred because it can feed the soul. You know, and these areas some are stronger than others, some are more important than others. We were told by a Tibetan Lama that Avebury is actually the heart chakra of the world, and so this was always a land that was magical and a land that was spiritual. It's the most spiritual area of the British Isles, actually. So it's not surprising that crop circles come here. Crop circles they're bringing us back to our ancient understanding, to the ancient sites, and to the ancient sites of power where we can actually be fed. When we enter a crop circle, we receive that energy, you see. It's always in line. Look, Silbury Hill, West Kennet, Longbarrow. So they bring us to the old building, to the old temples.